Why don't cops go to law school? So I've had twice in my life where I had to deal with an officer that obviously didn't care for the laws and rights or absolutely had no idea what they were. The worst, I was lucky enough to have another officer stand up for me. So now my favorite videos to waste time on is cops versus lawyers type of videos. It becomes excruciatingly obvious most officers only have a basic understanding for the law. I don't think it's necessarily their fault. It is very confusing at even the easiest of times with how our laws are. So I just keep wondering how come there is no schooling in the law before they are able to uphold it. I couldn't think of another job that required you to be so uninformed and untrained. Could you imagine if I was hired to work on a piece of large construction equipment without training or at least license? It just seems weird, conflicting, and illogical to hire people who don't know anything about the law to be the hand of justice. Law school isn't where you go to learn all the laws. It's where you go to learn legal theory and the application thereof. That's what police academy and the civil service exam is supposed to take care of. But we've degraded both in an effort to get more candidates through the program. In many ways, what's currently happening with public schools is more advanced in this domain. Law school in the U.S. is 3 years after a BA/BS. Criminal justice is only a BA. It is also super easy to pass. However, it seems like a garbage degree, since the CJ students I actually know don't seem like they learn anything useful. So, I guess your real question should be, why aren't cops taught how the law actually works during their CJ courses? Well, that would first require them to have bachelor's, pass LSATs, and pass law school. This would add several barriers of entry and drastically reduce numbers available for police school, as well as raising the median age for a rather physical career. Also, not every municipality has a law school, so the spread of eligible candidates would be heavily biased towards urban centers. This might actually be a good idea, but then we'd have to pay them about the same as we pay lawyers. Most people won't go to law school, even if it's free to get the pay policemen currently get. As U. Crispy BLT notes, it would also lower the number of candidates, which is already somewhat low in some areas. If elected, I would work more towards giving people the right to an attorney before the police can move them, except in case of emergency exigency, and require the legal system to function 24/7. They can't find enough cops to work now with a HS or associate's degree. If you raise the bar to 8 years of school for peanuts pay, you will get even less takers. Assume you're talking about a basic local cop and not like an FBI agent here. The vast majority of stuff they have to do, from traffic tickets to murder, is pretty basic, cut and dry. And if there's something complex, you go to a judge who did go to law school and get a warrant and follow that. Because that's what courtrooms are for. Reddit has some of the dumbest takes for police I've ever seen. Law school teaches you why it's useful if the police only have a reasonable understanding of the law. 'Cause then there'd be no cops and more lawyers. Be careful what you wish for, op. Having gone to law school, I'm pretty confident that cops know many of the laws far better than I do. I recall the elements of common law burglary from the bar exam years ago. But for any criminal statutes actually applicable in my jurisdiction, I'd need to look it up. I think people tend to confuse the 6-week training of sheriff deputies and the minimum 28-week training in police academy. Don't several countries require something like 2-3 years of training to become cops? There is a difference between application and legal theory. Cops are backed by their state's DA and county courts. Trust that if a cop makes too many bogus legal F-ups and they are on record with the courts and DA, they will not have a job much longer. It's an embarrassment to the cop and to the force when their lack of knowledge gets case after case thrown out. Police don't need to know the intention behind each law, landmark cases, or how to establish certain principles or rules have been met. Eggshell skull rule, duty of care, etc. They just need to enforce the law. Policing and lawyering are two seriously different. Cops, like lawyers, would have a negative impact on them, because they would be trained to interpret the law and probably not very skillfully rather than to simply enforce it. Despite what you may see in TV cop shows, about 95% of a cop's career is spent cruising around, writing tickets, mediating petty disputes, and filling out paperwork. The requirements for cop training in the U.S. are some of the lowest in the industrialized world. They don't need to understand how the law works. They need to understand what is illegal, what isn't, and how to enforce the law. Law school is where you learn how to be a lawyer. That's a rather different job. Besides, you're going to have to start convincing cops to get one degree first. Never mind an additional one. Consider this. You just finished law school. You paid $250,000 for a Juris Doctorate and you have a ton of student loan debt. But you also have the potential to earn a lawyer's wages and live very comfortably working as an attorney. You're looking for a job. Would you rather break up domestic disputes and write traffic tickets for $40,000 a year? Or get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to give people advice? Why don't cops just go to law school? It's easy and free, right? WTF. A large part of being an attorney, especially criminal defense, is finding loopholes in laws, exploiting technicalities, or manipulating the presented information in court to their client's benefit. I get people wanting more training for cops, but the above training is not what I had in mind. At my college, criminal justice majors mostly study sociology, but can take courses on constitutional law, civil liberties, American government, etc. as part of their major. Police departments, good ones, prefer that kind of background, but a lot of officers have much narrower ado backgrounds. Well, for one, if cops were required to prove themselves first as lawyers who are much better paid, why would they continue on to become cops? At that point, they would probably be better off becoming lawyers. Do you really want more lawyers? I know a state trooper who went to college for forensics. Part of that degree included classes in law. He's certainly in the minority, but it is becoming more and more common. If we made college degrees more accessible, you'd see it become the norm. FYI. A majority of those videos you see neglect to mention the state laws that apply. There's only a few of them provided by practicing lawyers that really take this into account. Unfortunately, the demand for police officers is high, so the requirements tend to be very relaxed. You think someone is going to go to law school, spend possibly hundreds of thousands on a degree that usually leads to a career as a lawyer, and then go to the academy for crap pay as a police officer dealing with yahoos on the street? The law is a small library worth of books. The best you could do is to learn the laws pertaining to a specific subject. I work in environmental compliance, and the numbers of regulations to learn in a single industry is extensive. Cops absolutely do learn the law. But imagine cramming all that shit over a few months when lawyers learn it over years. Blame the system that's content with good enough concerning public services. Some do, but most lawyers can get better jobs than that. The police departments do not require college degrees, let alone graduate advanced degrees. Cops aren't lawyers, nor are they judges or juries. It is their job to bring you before those people. Why should cops know the latest methods of chasing ambulances?